looking at quadratic word problems. The steps for these problems are going to be the same as they were for part one. So we're going to start with let statements, then create the equation, then solve the equation by factoring or using the quadratic formula, and then writing statements at the end that answer the question. So example one here says the product of two consecutive odd integers is 323. Okay? So this part here and this part here are going to create the equation. This part here creates our let statements. Okay, so we're talking about two consecutive odd integers. So we're going to say let x be first integer. And if it's two consecutive odd integers, if they're consecutive, then we're talking about like 3 and 5 are consecutive odd integers, or 27 and 29 are consecutive odd integers. So if x is the first integer, then x plus 2 is second integer. So if you're trying to find the next consecutive odd integer, you're just adding 2 to the original integer. Okay? So now we're going to use the red part that I outlined, and that says the product is 323. So the product of these two numbers, we've talked about product before, that means that we're multiplying x times x plus 2, because that's what product means, is multiplying. So the product of those integers is 323. So whenever we see that word is in word problems, that means equals, and then 323. So now, just like I've done in the other questions, I need to get everything simplified and on one side of the equal sign. So x times x gives me x squared. Then I get plus 2x. Okay, and then 323 moves over and becomes minus 323. So it'll look like that. Now, if I wanted to try and factor this, I could, but I'm not feeling great about the 323. And I know that the quadratic formula will always work, so I'm going to make a list of my A, my B, and my C. And then I'll write down my quadratic formula. And now I'll plug them in. So I'm going to get minus 2 plus or minus b squared, so 2 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. So I get negative 2 plus or minus, and then I get 1296 underneath the root sign, all over 2. So my two possible answers, because I can take the square root of 1296, and that actually gives me 36. So my two possible answers here for x are x equals negative 2 plus 36 over 2, or x equals let's see if I can move these guys. Awesome. So x equals negative 2 minus 36 over 2. So x equals, and when I simplify that part, I'm going to get 17 or x equals negative 19. Now, in the questions we did yesterday, we were talking about rectangles and we were talking about dimensions. So those had to be positive values. Here we're just talking about integers. So both of these answers are possible. So that means up above where I had my let statements, let x be the first integer. So in this case here, x is the first integer, then x plus 2 would equal 19. Okay? If x is equal to negative 19, then x plus 2 is going to equal negative 17. So that means when I write my statement at the end here, I just got to be aware of this. Therefore, because they asked me to just determine the integers, so therefore, the integers are, so it's 17 and 19, or negative 19 and negative 17. Okay, so that's our final statement there. So it's important that you read the question so you understand what it is you're finding. And these ones negatives are possible, but when we were talking about the dimensions of the rectangle, those ones had to be positive. All right. This one here, we've got, I'll do what I did last time. So the sum of the squares is 434. So that's my equation part. And then the details about the numbers are that there are 3 consecutive positive integers. So, like I did last time, I'm going to say let first integer be x, then second integer is, and it's the next consecutive. So consecutive integers are like 6, 7, 8. They're numbers that are right in a row. So the second integer is going to be x plus 1. And the third integer is x plus 2. So we've got an expression for each of those integers. Now we'll deal with the equation part. And the equation part says the sum of the squares, so the sum of the squares of these 3 numbers, so that means x squared plus x plus 1 squared plus x plus 2 squared is 434. So now I'm going to have to do some work here to get rid of the brackets. So remember, if I have x plus 1 squared, that means x plus 1 times x plus 1. And if I have x plus 2 squared, that's going to be x plus 2 times x plus 2. So now we'll do some FOIL. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is plus 1x. 1 times x is plus 1x. And 1 times 1 is plus 1. And then x plus 2 times x plus 2 is going to give me x squared. X times x. X times 2 is going to be plus 2x. X times 2 is going to be plus 2x. And then 2 times 2 gives me 4. So all that is equal to 434. So I made quite a mess there, but now the brackets are gone. I'm going to collect all the like terms together on the left side, and we'll leave 0 all by itself on the other side. So I've got x squared, x squared, x squared. So I've got 3x squared. Okay, I've got 1x, 2x, 4x, 6x altogether, so plus 6x. And then when I bring the minus, or the 434 over, it becomes minus. I've got 4 plus 1 is 5. So 5 minus 434 is going to end up being minus 429. So that's what my equation looks like when I simplify it. Okay, so I'm going to have to extend things a little bit here. Hopefully you can squeeze it. You're working on one side or the other. So for here, I've got, let me make a list of what I got here. So I've got A equals 3, B equals 6, and C equals negative 429. So I'll write down my formula. All right, and then we will fill in our numbers. So x is equal to minus b is going to be minus 6. So I'm going to get 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, be careful when you're filling numbers into the formula that you don't make a mistake with the signs. And then 2 times a is going to be 2 times 3. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus, and I'm going to get 5,184 underneath the root sign, and then 6. And here is where I got to split my two answers. So one answer is x equals, and the square root of 5184 is 72. So it's going to be negative 7 plus 72 over 6, or x equals negative 6 minus 72 over 6. So my possibilities here then are x equals 11, or x equals negative 13. Now when I look back at the question here, it said positive integers. So that means right away that the 13, or the negative 13, is not a possibility because it can only be the positive. So therefore, the integers are, and remember from up above, x plus 1, x plus 2. So 11, 12, and 13 are the numbers that satisfy that word problem. Okay, great. We'll see you tomorrow.